I felt the lump for maybe 4 months before I wanted to get it checked out, but I was in denial. It wasn't until somebody, which I felt knew my body very well, a person that was in my life, uh, he basically said, look, I know your body and there's something wrong with your body. I feel this lump. And I just thought it was nothing. So finally, I went to the OBGYN for a pap smear, just an annual exam. And she didn't examine my breast. I was walking out the office and she said, it seems like something on your mind. You have something you want to say? So, or, you feeling, you just got a question? So I said, yeah, I do have this. I have a lump in my breast. And she said, that's a big problem.
I remember when she, first told me about the lump, and I just kind of just thought nothing of it because she was so young, and I was just like, don't worry about it.
I was in shock. Um, a little denial because when Qiyana first told me that a lump was found on her breast, I didn't take it serious because I had a cousin and a friend that just went through it and it was diagnosed as fatty tissues.
It's kind of like a numb feeling. Sometimes my emotions get shown more, not in the open. So I was very, very quiet and numb about it. I really didn't know what to do.
When I first found out, it was just like, oh no, maybe the doctors had the wrong diagnosis or something. Maybe it was something else, or maybe she got the wrong papers.
I couldn't tell them because when I picked up the phone and they knew I was going to the doctors to get the results of the biopsy, but I don't think they knew it was, everybody just said, oh, you're young, it can't happen to you. It's probably just a lump, it's just what they would say, like it's just benign. It's a benign tumor. So my friend Octavia was with me when I went to the doctors. She came home with me. She drove home with me, followed me home. And she said, are you going to tell the family? And I said, I can't tell them. And then so she said, well, just call them. So when I called, the first person I called was Sandy.
Well, I was appalled. Like, I was hurt, devastated. I could not imagine that happening to her. Some people may say, me myself, like, why Qiyana? Sometimes you don't question, you're not supposed to question God, but I've done it.
And I became very angry with God about it because I couldn't understand why would Qiyana get cancer. Qiyana is a good child, a good person. She's a very kind-hearted person.
And I didn't think anything else of it, but when she actually called me and told me, that it was cancer, like I was like walking through the door and all I could remember was just dropping everything in my hands because it just felt like she just told me it was the end of the world was coming. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I just said, okay. And I remember hanging up the phone and just breaking down and crying.
I was in a state of shock, confusion. I felt betrayed. I just almost felt helpless and hopeless. I was in a state of denial.
And the day that she told me that it was cancerous, it was on my birthday, and I had just lost a great uncle.
I didn't show much emotion, but inside, that's your child. And I can remember thinking that she's the one anyway. I always feel that she's the one gonna take care of me when I get older anyway. So I kind of thought about, wow, who's gonna do that now if something happens to her?
I just think it was the end of the world. Like my older sister, my only blood sister, had breast cancer. I just was like, oh man, what's gonna happen? She gonna die? I ain't know. I just kept to myself.
It was it was very hard to accept or even to say that I had cancer. I don't think I uttered the words I had cancer to probably about March, April. You know, I couldn't say the words I had breast cancer. I couldn't even write the words I had breast cancer. And I'm a write, and I love to write and express my feelings and writing, but I couldn't even express it that way.
I didn't never think nothing about it. But you don't think about something until it hit at home, and it hit hard.
It just didn't feel real. So, you know, accepting it wasn't even an option because, you know, it wasn't real to me. And I think that I really had to start accepting it when, you know, I went with her to the doctors.
It drained me mentally quickly. I went to work the next day and they had to send me home because I couldn't believe it. Qiyana never was sick. Qiyana had one cold as a child, and she never was sick. All her visits were keep well. So Qiyana with cancer, no, I didn't believe it at first. And then I had to really sit down and analyze that it was real.
So, got to go in there to see Dr. Alvarez. I can never forget his name because I ain't never seen him again since that day. He started talking really reckless. It's like it's cancer. You got to do something right now about it. You need to start chemo like next week. And I said, chemo? Like, you know, I'm like, cancer, chemo? Like, what are you talking about? So I was like, you know, I said, what if I don't start next week? He said, you will die.
You know, when you're sick or your loved one is sick, you never really want to hear the truth. So a lot of times you go to different doctors hoping and praying that somebody will say what you want them to say. However, I had a coworker that had breast cancer, and I asked her to recommend us to a doctor. And we went to Dr. Lane, and to me, he didn't have bedside manners. But at the same time, he was doing his job. And his thing was, you have cancer. If you don't start chemo, you're going to die. I thought that was the worst thing he could have said to us.
So I was told you're going to die by 2 doctors within 2 weeks. And still, I didn't start chemo when I was supposed to because I felt that I needed another opinion.
Hearing the different options and what she had to do and, you know, how fast she had to do it. And I just remember just like soaking up all of this information.
But then he referred us to his surgeon, who was Dr. Blackwood.
And Dr. Blackwood gave me one of the best advices in the world. She said, you're young, but you do not have to die. You shall live. And she asked me, and I love her because she started talking without even using God. She just started talking about faith and everything. Like, but I could tell like she just had like this anointing in her. I love her because she just knew how to talk to me. She was affectionate. She was like a mother. Like, but at the same time, she was doing her job.
And she did one of Qiyana's surgery, which was cleaning up the margins. And she explained it to us. And she told us that breast cancer can be, it's not a cure, but it can be stopped. And listen to Dr. Lane, she was going to die within months from his diagnosis, but we didn't go back to him.
It wasn't like Dr. Alvarez. She didn't say, oh, Qiyana, you got to cut your breasts off. You got to start the chemo. You got to have a mastectomy. She said, Qiyana, that's just a choice that you have. But I believe that you will be okay if you have just a lumpectomy. She said, I need to go back because when you had the biopsy, they only removed the lump. But because of the type of tumor that I had and the type of cancer I had, it was very aggressive. However, it only spread it to 2 lymph nodes out of 12. So that was a good thing. So that was a good sign that, I had a low percentage of it spreading to my other breast. And even though it spread into my lymphatic system, that's when they made the recommendation. Dr. Blackwood told me that most likely I will be doing chemo and radiation.